Hey guys, today we're talking about the topic of Reconstruction, right? We've been looking at this for a little bit of time now, and we want to lean on it. Now, remember, Reconstruction is how they put the nation back together at the end of the Civil War. And the beginning of this process actually starts before the end of the Civil War, and it starts with the 13th Amendment. So we're going to talk about what specifically that is. Okay, and the 13th Amendment is all about the topic of slavery. Okay, is slavery legal, going to be legal in the United States? The 13th Amendment says no, slavery will not be legal in the United States. Now, how did they get to this point? So remember our friend Abraham Lincoln, okay? He runs for the president on this issue, right? He says that he will not allow slavery to expand throughout the United States, right? He leads the United States into a war over this issue, right? But how does he actually get it into law? Right. Well, the first thing he does, and you guys remember this, but he gives the Emancipation Proclamation. And this was in 1863, okay, right in the middle of the Civil War. And this is a rallying cry for the Union soldiers for what this war is actually about, right? It's not about reuniting the Union. It is about getting rid of this evil thing that we call slavery, right? Where one person owns another person. We want to completely get rid of that in the United States, okay? But the Emancipation Proclamation, that doesn't actually accomplish it legally, right? There needs to be a law on the books to make that happen. Okay, and what Lincoln does here is actually quite brilliant, because at the beginning of the Civil War, right, every single one of the states that would have been against this law, right, saying that slavery is illegal, they all seceded from the United States. So in the middle of the Civil War, right, um, Congress, they get together, they write up this law that is going to say, all right, slavery is going to be illegal in the United States, right? And obviously, the all of these people here, right, everybody in the South, they are not there, right, because they have already said that they are not a part of the United States anymore, so they don't have any input in the making of that law. So this law actually it passes through fairly quickly, right? And by December 6th, 1865, that is the day that it actually goes on the law into the Constitution of the United States of America. Okay? And so what it says right here, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, right? Involuntary work, right? Except as punishment for a crime where they have been convicted shall exist within the United States or any place of their jurisdiction. So if you are going to be a state in the United States, right, you cannot allow slavery, you cannot allow involuntary work, right? The only time that this is possible is when it's punishment for a crime where they have been convicted, right? So they go before the courts, go before a judge, right? And that would be a sentence that they might receive, right? Think community service, right? That's not voluntary, but that is legal, right? Because it's punishment for a crime that somebody has committed. Now you might be wondering, what does this have to do with with Reconstruction and how the Union is put back together? Well, what Lincoln says right at the end of the Civil War, and what they say is that in order for you to come back into the United States, you need to agree to this amendment, right? You need to actually um, make slavery illegal in your state, right? That was the first step for states to get back into the United States was to ratify their constitution, the state constitution, to include the 13th Amendment that would prohibit slavery, right? And now for the first time in the history of the United States, the federal government, right, is supporting the rights of slaves. Okay, for the first time in history, right, the federal government is saying that we will support you, right, freed slaves, right? And your life from here on out is going to be better, right? That's the importance of the 13th Amendment is is what a difference it made for people that were constantly living in fear, right, of being punished or beaten from their owners, or even if you were a freed Black person living in fear of being captured and taken to the South and being put into slavery, right? The federal government is saying that that's not okay, right? We will be fighting against this. We will support you in this, right? And you will be free, right? As you guys know, equality doesn't happen right here, right? That's going to happen later on because shortly after this, right, Lincoln is assassinated and and his vice president, uh, Johnson, becomes the new president, right? Andrew Johnson. And they had very different views on politics, they had different views on equality, and they had different views on how Reconstruction should happen. So at this point, Reconstruction really takes a turn and heads in a different direction.